thank you very much for joining us in Signum Magnum College to this series of interviews with executives. First and foremost, I want to thank you on behalf of the university for accepting this interview with us. Angela has a very fascinating trajectory. She was working in Avon for 25 years. Her last position there, she was the global CEO of Avon. So she has probably a lot to talk about Avon, about consumer, about marketing, sales, and all the areas of the company. We really appreciate you for taking the time to having you. And I want to start. Uh, One thing that you told me before we started recording, your degree. I got very interested in knowing how someone that comes from cybernetics end up becoming a global CEO of Avon, a company of the consumer market. So can you tell us a little bit why you chose that career and how that panned out, helping you in all that you did in Avon?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Guilherme. I mean, it's really a treat for me as an executive to be part of a community of people who still look for ways to self-develop and create meaningful careers for themselves. And I would start as well the story, by bringing that perspective as a student myself when I blended my keen passion for mathematics and sciences and computer sciences together with my keen desire to really understand the way world functions, this incredibly complex ecosystem of ours, yes, the social economical one, where you have multi-variables, many of them acting like in a black box. You don't know exactly, you kind of understand your input, you get to witness the output, but you don't understand the complexity of mechanisms who are transforming, in any given day or a period of time, all these multiple variables from state A to state B. So I was very excited when I've seen there is such speciality of and such a way to study where through a combination of technology, macroeconomics, econometry, informatics, and general understanding of economics, you would blend them all to have a better understanding on how to forecast, how to understand any economic system. um, I would say basic processes in order to be able to predict how it's going to function in the future. So that's why I chose economic cybernetics, and my degree was in computers econometrics. So I wanted to understand how the technology market is going to evolve in the future. Even now, going back of my thesis after I finished the 5 years of university, and I was from then absolutely convinced that we will all become ultra dependent on the technology for us to be able to manage the information and as well lead properly with effective and efficient decisions going forward. So that was why I chose this university and this degree. Why I ended up at Avon? I mean, people might see that one doesn't necessarily lead to another, but it all depends on one's personality. You can use the information and the way to connect the dots that we all learn during these studies in any given job out there. Yes, and to me, I looked for roles where I would be surrounded by people, where I would uh, really have that exciting, experience of co-creation. Of value and feeling that I'm giving more than just my physical presence and expertise or knowledge, but actually contribute to something bigger. So Avon was the company who offered me all that.
How do you define yourself as a leader, what do you think are maybe the three most important traits for a leader, for yourself, and for the team that you want to build below you? Like when you are choosing a leader to be led by you, what are the characteristics that you look for?
So look, this is evolving over time. I have 25 years of leadership behind and bending the context, bending my own stage of development, self-development. I've experienced these different sides and different dimensions of leadership. I can tell you now the conclusion as of today, yes, where I'm a deep believer that the era of industrial leadership, it's over. The era where you would have a commander top of the hill who either by fear or his own charisma would lead the troops, yes, would just create these amazing speeches and vision into the future, and then they will have an army of executors, following the guidance from coming from the top. I think that era is over because the market is changing dramatically. So market is not any longer prescriptive, yes, where you would do strategies for 3 years, for 5 years. I'm sure you study that in many of your programs currently. That era is also over. Now you need agile, emerging ways to marry the long-term vision with your ability to follow this super VUCA world is in real time. So with this context, the leadership has to evolve as well. That prescriptive command and control from the top, where you'd have very few people taking decisions for all, cannot survive any longer because with such market, you need agility. Agility comes with the empowerment of an army of leaders, not one, two, or three. How to create an army of leaders, yes, informal and formal, through no matter where they are in the organization, young or experienced, in a junior positions or top positions, they all need to act as partners. They all need to act in sync in real time with the market dynamic. For that, they need to be empowered. So to me, the role of leader nowadays is not any longer to be somewhere on the top or behind pushing people. It's a simple node of energy into a network of professionals. I don't see the sense of multi-hierarchical setups of egocentric, I call them egocentric, yes, hierarchical setups where you would have, I don't know how many levels of approvals, everyone feels they are managing somebody else. This is not about working for somebody else. It's all about being united for a purpose, a network of professionals, and the leader acting as, you ask three, yes, enabler, connector, multiplier. So to me, that's the new profile of leadership.
Another interesting thing I saw in your trajectory that I wanted to ask. Most of your career in Avon, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, you were in emerging markets, Romania, Turkey, Russia, and so on. And then you
I was in
ended,
the US. I was in the
yeah,
US and leading the business model innovation for the entire globe, both developed and emerging. And as well, my last 5 years as a CEO, I've dealt with both, including
yeah.
developed markets.
What I wanted to ask you is coming first from emerging markets, where you probably had to see and you probably know a lot about frugal innovation, right? Like you need to do. We here in Latin America we have the same. Like we need to do a lot of a few things, and then you go to the big markets in US and the corporate that will have more resources. No, how the experience you had in markets that are more frugal, I would say, build yourself to go to the corporate, to the main office, to US, and how that panned in your experience, like how that worked for you. Like I think that part is very interesting now to talk about.
I mean, it was one of my biggest multipliers. And to be honest, at the beginning, I would feel it's a barrier for me, the fact that I was coming from an emergent market, given that most of my peers at that time were coming either from US or from UK, from Western Europe. And I felt that even their own educational background, and the way they built up their own careers was so different than mine. The way their perspective over the world opportunity is very different than mine, and as well over the managing the resources as well. Very process oriented, like I could only reach the point B from point A only through this process. While me coming from emerging market, I could see a myriad ways of reaching point B with less or more resources, right? Because we were forced through our upbringing from education to the scarcity of the resources we grew up with, yes, to be very inventive, which would be many of the times as well. I mean, you need to be careful, how to keep it as a multiplier and not to be a derailer, yes, because it's also important to have some clear consistency in the processes going forward. So I think a marriage of the both skills is really working best. To me, it was a very useful way to manage the company, especially through pandemic, cyber attack crisis that we've had, and it was a massive one, multiple crises like from the war to terrorism in many parts around the world, because I grew up with crisis being the daily dish in the menu. Yeah. So to us, a crisis, it's like, okay, another one to be managed. Why for people who grew up in a more predictable environment, a crisis can be paralyzing.
Mm.
Yeah. For us, and I hope I can say for us, because we grew up from similar environments from that perspective, it's like, okay, yet another challenge. It's intellectually stimulating. Emotionally, I know how to handle it. Let's get on with it. Let's pull up our sleeves and find ways to go around through it, or whatever it takes, to see ourselves on the other side. So to me, it's an advantage. And I have to be honest, especially in turnaround situations, or when I needed to leap forward with the innovation, I prefer to have a mix of the team where I would ensure a healthy proportion of people who grew up in emerging markets.
Interesting. Now getting on the hook of what you just said, like mix of the team, diversity, women empowerment. Talk about your experience with that. How you encountered it in Avon, a company that is so fast forward in terms of women empowerment, but also I know that you're now doing board positions and you see a lot in the market and so on. Where do you think we are in terms of women empowerment? And what is your take in terms of women leadership? I told you already my take on that. Like, if you want, I tell again here in the camera. I think that is extremely rich, no, important, the balance between men and women. I saw in the first hand the teams that I was working with or was leading or the peers I had. Every time you bring these two energies in the table, you have a different perspective. No, like we are complementary in my point of view, like men and women, right? I don't see for one side or another, but I think that the balance is where we have the main advantage. But I would like to hear your take on that, like what you think about and how you're seeing this, like both first in Avon, if you can comment on that, and the positions that you are in the board right now, and overall, like in Europe and worldwide that you are being seen, and what is your personal take on that?
It's beautiful how you said it, Guillermo. Indeed, it's about that complementarity. That complementarity, it's if you wish, the definition of humanity, of our natural ecosystem, of everything that exists in life. Yes, one cannot do without another. And it's not about being binary and saying, I'm either having a man or a woman, or a young or a senior person, or a black or a white, or a Muslim or a Christian. I mean, this is not about binary choices. This is about and ensuring the diversity of perspectives. There is not only the human value of it, yes, which I can talk about it for hours, but the economical value is $1 trillion. I mean, we have multiple studies showing the economic tangible value if we only bring more women at the decision-making boardrooms or forums on every level in society and in business. And the value creation is coming from the diversity of perspectives. So when I initially started my career, and I had, I think, one of my very first management roles, I will never forget, Guillermo, when I opened that door in our first EMEA management meeting, as it was European, Middle East, and Africa management meeting, and there were mainly men at that time. And when I opened that door, I really felt that I clearly cannot walk like them. I cannot talk like them. I cannot be like them. I had a huge admiration for the way they presented themselves, their confidence, the way they would mix humor with very brilliant perspectives. And I felt that I have my own way, yet I cannot be one of them really. So I had to make a call of who I am into this game. Yeah. And one of my coaches at that time told me something that is very similar with your perspective. He said, you do what you are at that time young. I was 27 in my first general manager role. Yes. Woman and from Eastern Europe or emerging market. These are your biggest multipliers, he said. Actually, not barriers. Use your differentiators as key multipliers and not as barriers to keep you back. The only one mistake one can do is to see that the this that like a polarization and not like complementarity. So I was not against my male peers. I was there to add on my perspective, and then together, running through different perspectives, we would find the optimal decision going forward. Yes, so that's one thing. And at Avon, I found this, I would say, very nurturing environment to promote diversity as a divine gift. And I grew up through this environment. I promoted this environment as a CEO as well, looking at nationalities, different perspectives as well through educational background, men, women, and pending the situation, I would tap into the balance of all this, not working by quotas, but rather working by the what we needed best in terms of um, views and opinions and skills in terms of mix for us to reach either a higher speed or a more breadth of options in any given situation that we had to tackle. So I would say women empowerment, it's not about replacing men. Women empowerment should not be the threat. Women empowerment, it's actually a multiplier. It's a gift of working together, like you know, everything else in life in a synergistic way. And there is so much, and women don't want equality of output. I can tell you, I worked with so many women from Brazil to Philippines, and from, I don't know, Nordics, from Latvia to South Africa. So I've heard none telling that it's about equality of output. We all want equality of chance. And then professionally, pending our own value, finding ways that where we create that togetherness. And this is what we need to continue to achieve. Are we there yet? No. And Latin America, by the way, is not excelling in its scores of women empowerment, although through my experience working with almost every country in Latin America in my last 25 years through several projects and through my last role as a CEO, I can say that the Latin American women are extremely strong, an inspiration in terms of the passion, the energy they put in the roles they play in a society. So there is so much to offer. Yeah.
I agree with you. What, in the same line, like, what Angela would say to a young woman that is entering in a bachelor degree right now or starting her MBA, and she doesn't have that confidence that she can become someone like Angela? Like, what are the, let's say, three, yeah, let's talk about three, the three golden rules for a girl that is wants to become Angela, like, or to have the same success that you had in your career today, no, like, what, because for example, I normally talk with people about that. There are people, for example, myself, my career, I never planned anything. Everything happened by chance, you know.
I wouldn't
Um,
call it chance. Yes, it's happening when you have a when you don't have to call out a role, specific role,
mm,
because I think that's limiting. It's only opening for you one door.
okay.
But if you play by experience that you want to have, the values that you put into play, your purpose, when these things are clear to you, man or woman, universe, it's opening many doors that would respond to this setup.
Okay.
And then life guides you through these doors to, and at the end, all you need is to maximize your potential, maximize the value you can add. And there are so many myriad of means one can do that. So you say that the advice, I don't know what it means like Angela. I prefer to say like Angela to me would be not to reach the CEO level. I'm 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 not sure if this is not limiting. This is just a role,
Mm,
but rather be intensely engaged with one and loving what you do every day. I think to me that's the ultimate recipe of success, or definition of success, rather. Definition of success is to feel you're loving it, to feel you're on top of your world, not what others expect to be your world. So I would start with that one. Yeah. And maybe I cannot be, I've never called myself self-confident, because in a way, in my mind, the self-confidence is the poise man show. But I had an innate self-trust I felt very comfortable with to call out. I knew what I can do. I know what I can't do, and I'm equally comfortable with both. I know I can be, let's name it, I'm just making it up, a good basketball player, and I
mhm.
will never be a ballerina. Yeah, and I'm fine. I would just tell people I can never be a ballerina. So my advice is then for young graduates or for those who are still studying would be, first of all, never try to be what you're not meant to be. So try to understand early what's the purpose, what makes you happy. But when I say happy, it's not happy like I don't know, having a great night out. Happy, yes. Happy meaning content, engaged with your life and what you're doing. And then starting with those two, look for activities from those paid or those who are not paid, yes, that are meeting this purpose and this meaning today. Don't postpone your happiness and sense of achievement in 20 years. I never wanted to be a CEO. Never. Even when they proposed me to become a CEO, I haven't applied for it. You see? So, but I knew what experience I want to have in my life. And that kept, and still it's opening for me doors. I don't know what I'm necessarily going to do in a few years, but I know what experience I want to have. So this is what I would say to especially to women. Don't try to be who you are not. Understand your purpose very well, and that will build your self-trust. And then look for activities that create that joy to live, that joie de vivre, that zest for life, because people follow, and I'm not talking just in business, in any aspect of life, they follow people who feel good in their skin, who have the energy and the appetite to do things. They want them to be part of their teams. Yeah.
Completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. Let's let's talk a little bit about business now to finish our interview. You talked about VUCA
Yes.
in a part
Team
of the
building.
interview. Yeah. How how do you see the future of the consumer industry right now, consumer retail overall? Like, I think that your take on that will be very fascinating to hear. Like, how do you see all these different moving parts that are happening right now? For example, I work a lot with artificial intelligence. Now we are seeing like a very fast-paced thing happening. Like you get super blown up like how fast the things are happening, no, in terms of artificial intelligence, these new technologies, the new things, and so on. And you probably saw a lot, and you guys in Avon innovation and so on, you saw a lot before they happened, right?
Right.
But how now in November 2024, Angela sees the way forward in terms of the customer, the marketing, the markets, and so on. What would you say? Let's say if you have your crystal ball, what do you think that is going to happen right now from now on with all these different things happening in the market?
So let's start. Let's start with what we have been used with for the last decades, and what unfortunately it's still taught in many marketing schools, and that is the series of P's: product, place, promotion, you name it. Yes, of how to center the marketing activity in a company around the customers. Yes, so they call it the fundamentals of marketing. Nobody would argue that this should not be the base, but it's far away from the top of what really makes the difference. And if we stay only on that base, it's no way we are going to win in the marketplace. Consumer, indeed, it's evolving dramatically in the way they learn their information. They are extremely savvy. They have now instant access to all kinds of information that are guiding their decisions. And the loyalty is not any longer any brand can count on. You have to regain customers' choice almost every day, if not by hour. And that cannot happen only through a series of P's, because that's not a winning game. So there are new elements that are extremely important to be taken into consideration that we've seen again and again in the past few years and are going to guide us into the future, and new emerging ones that I'm going to tell after that. So one is clearly personalization. And personalization, I'm not talking about the most powerful CRM, tech-empowered uh, platforms who are looking at thousands of segments. I'm talking through high touch personalization, when they actually know not just my name or the fact that I'm a woman at the age of 50. The brand truly understands my personality and my need of self-expression. Then it's about instant gratification. The customers are not any longer buying just for the product as such or service as such. They also want to be gratified with some shopping experience that it's really giving that sense of gratification, either through the deal, extra service, extra gift. In a way, it's coming with a surprising that creates that addiction to repeat the purchase and prefer again that brand. Then it's about gamification. Yes, very important. Either to the reward loyalty programs, the gamification. It's again everything to bring that sense of entertainment through shopping, because people are really looking for escapism, the anxiety in the news and in our lives because of the lots of reasons. Yes, political, social, economical. Um, really make people craving for escapism. So with any shopping experience that is providing personalization, gratification, some kind of gamification, they are already into a winning space. Then you have other elements like the demand for and I talk social responsibility, I don't do it just for the aspects of sustainability like protect the Amazon or the planet, or having a social impact like empowering women or supporting the young generation, or generally the principles of equality and human support. But it's about the tangible impact that brand or that company has in my own community, not in some scholarship they paid globally to some people I have never met. So people are dragging global and local companies to have tangible results in their own, in their own reach, so they can see, they can feel that it's more than just a shareholder adding value player, but it's an actual community value adding player. Yeah, so this is another demand. So you see consumers changing a lot, and now going into the future, we see new emerging trends like the consumers on one hand side appreciating that technology comes to enable many of these touch points, but they don't want to lose the human touch. How many people are absolutely annoyed with the bots or with, I get every day, honestly, now there are so many AI powered LinkedIn messaging. You simply see through it that this is not any longer a human on the other side. Yes, I simply delete those. I don't even look at it any longer, not even with an intellectual curiosity. So people are craving to human contact. That it brings that sense of authentic relationship. They want to have a relationship with the brands, the products and services they acquire. So why? Because they want to be rewarded on a personal level. Like we're closing the circle back to personalization. So see, consumer is now bringing lots of new things on the plate, and for the players out there in trade, actually in any given industry, the key to success would be to be able to map these needs, be ready to acknowledge the newly emerging ones, and then with agility enable their people, their associates, to tap into these opportunities and adjust their business model, product and service offering to meet those needs.
Amazing. Very, very interesting take on that. Very interesting. Yeah, I completely agree with you that people and they will escalate, right? Like the AI and the non-human contact will be just escalating. And I share the same opinion of you that the people will be craving more and more for the human touch.
Exactly, because everything in nature is cyclical. Like with the entropy in every system, it happens for a reason, to reset and restart. Yes, so I think it's the normal. We can already see it in all our focus groups with Gen Alpha. As an example, you can see already a tendency for them to completely disconnect from all the online tech-enabled connections, as an example, and go back to how people would meet and have fun in the 70s. So everything is cyclical. We have to be there where our customers are, and not only anticipate their needs, but making sure we come ahead of their needs.
Yeah, I don't know what's your opinion on that, but in my opinion, artificial intelligence shall not replace jobs and functions and people, but to be an enabler. Like I see, for example, myself, I work in the technology industry, and then people are super afraid that they will be replacing the developers, replacing the technicians, replacing, and they say, no, you become like you remember that movie Universal Soldier, that he had augmented capabilities through the technology, through the artificial intelligence. I think that AI needs to be a tool, but not the mean, not the end of the thing, right? Like it's
not the end, but I would like your students to also be aware that they need to be extremely versatile and to keep the area of knowledge and learning vast. Because yes, we do say that AI is an augmenting tool, but the reality is, and I can tell you this as a CEO, I restructured in technology alone. I had to take out of the company 800 people from IT alone because I simply got replaced their intervention with AI power tools. So when you put these numbers together, for those 800 people, they had to either find the roles in another company, but guess what? Other companies have done exactly the same thing, or simply go back to learn new things or adjust the way they are contributing with value. So I would say yes, it is an augmenting tool. Yes, it's not going to replace the job per se if we look at a macro level, but at an individual level, the best advice I can give is keep a high span of keep the optionality, keep learning, keep being versatile, in the value one could create, because inevitably some of our tasks will be automated and taken over by systems.
Yeah, Bill Gates have, let's say, a little bit doomsday view on that. Like he says that we as a society, we shall create the mechanisms to have taxes on the AI, to make people, to have a way to give a salary to all the people that be replaced. Do you share this kind of point of view, or what do you think about it?
Theory about the global minimum income, and the future indeed is fascinating. I just want to recommend to all your students to read the latest Harari's book, Nexus, which is a masterpiece in terms of the key understanding of what's going on, where it has its roots in the way human behaves, because then you are going to see differently the theory, should we have a global income or not. And he's a futurologist as well, although he calls himself a historian. It gives quite a healthy, not healthy, interesting projection for the next 2 to 3 years, which is again exciting because it's not a future. Yeah. About AI impacting the way we connect and what it means for our life. And so I recommend that book. But I'm sure, like with every ecosystem, I'm coming back to my big belief that we always have resets and we find new ways is to create value. I'm sure not only that just new jobs will appear, new roles in society and new income sharing formulas. I am at a belief, although I grew up in communism, so I'm totally against the communism. I saw the pain of it. Yet I am at a belief that it must be a formula that has a more evenly distributed value creation in a society, avoiding these horrible polarizations, yes, that are not good for the humanity as a whole. So we will see. Maybe technology will help us. If it will not help us and will become harmful, as a humanity will always emerge, I would say, better and wiser. We'll learn from it and move forward.
Thank you very much, Angela. I really wanted to thank you for taking the time to share so valuable insights with us and with our students. To close, can you send a message to all the students, and not just the students from the university, but all the people that will be watching you? Last words from Angela.
Well, I will zoom out completely, and I would come back to the essence of what I've seen as a common denominator in all professional and life roles I've had as a mother, as a wife, and as a CEO or professional at work. And that is that happiness is a choice. So I would tell all your students, how no matter how difficult a day might look like, no matter how messed up the world can look, you know, just take that step back and remember to reset your own world into a state that allows you to fully enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Angela. Really, really, really thank you.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.